O Lord, may the words of my mouth and meditation of each and every one of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, your strength and our deliverance. Dunkin' Donuts, like a lot of other companies, have come out with an app for their phones. It seems like just about everybody has come out with an app. Their deal is, we'll send you some promotions, and if you buy a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, you can put it on the app, and if you pay with the app, you get certain promotions and discounts and stuff like this. And they send you emails periodically updating you about that, most of which I kind of look at like, okay, fine. But they sent me one the other day that really, really, really caught my attention. First off, I like Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I think it's the best coffee, especially when you get it at the restaurant. Bring it at home, just something that's not quite the same about it. But this one said that, now they have, if you've been in Dunkin' Donuts store during football season in years past, you see a life-size cutout of Eli Manning. They've had a relationship with the Giants for a number of years. And this little thing that came along said that this year, during football season, if the Giants or the Jets win, the next day, you can get an iced or hot medium coffee for 25 cents. I know where I'm going on Monday mornings when either one of them win. And with both of them in there, it's kind of a promotion for that. See, it caught my eye for a couple of reasons. One, coffee. I love coffee. And the other one was because of the Giants. I'm a Giants fan, right? I bleed blue. Knew a young lady at the blood center that I used to work at was a big Rangers fan. And was on her shoulder, she had the Rangers logo. And I just met somebody else who had a Dallas Cowboy logo. He's sitting right back there in the corner. He's got a Dallas Cowboy logo tattoo.
That's me.
Football season is always a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot. Like I said to the kids, when a team is doing really, really well, everybody wants to follow them. When they're not doing so well, awful lot of those people wander away. But you get the diehard ones. I knew a guy, matter of fact, the guy who was my boss at the blood center, rabid Jets fan. I mean, he absolutely loved the Jets, good or bad. He was really, really, really faithful to the Jets. Matter of fact, unfortunately, probably stress-related, he passed away at like 45 years old or something. When he was buried in his Jets jersey with the Jets football and all kinds of stuff in the casket with him, because that's who he was. The children's message talked about the difference between fans and followers. It talked about fans as being folks who follow somebody, but sometimes only when times are good and when it's popular. When things turn, they tend to wander away. Now in this gospel passage, this is the Gospel of Mark. And Mark is the first gospel written. It was written about 65 AD. And it's kind of like a shorthand gospel. You can find direct quotes from Mark in both Matthew and Luke. Because most Bible scholars think that Matthew and Luke used Mark as source material. They probably had another source. They named that Q. There is no copy of it that exists. But they found, again, direct phrases that appear in both Luke and Matthew and appear to have come from someplace else. We just don't have that. But Mark does that. The other thing about Mark is it is, you could almost call it a shorthand gospel. Because in a short amount of verses, you have an awful lot going on. And so sometimes Matthew and Luke will fill in details that you don't have in Mark. Now in this passage, Jesus turns around to the crowds following. Now if you remember reading through the Gospels, yes, he had his inner circle, the disciples, the 12, who were with him all the time, and he would pull them aside and teach them stuff, and they would be there at special times, the Last Supper, a couple of them up on the Mount of Transfiguration. So they were there for the real special events. And they were referred to as the apostles or his closest friends. But there were hundreds who followed him around, which is why he was able to feed 4,000 people, because there were 4,000 people following him. And he had a lot of these people following him. He turned around and said to these people in this passage, whoever wants to keep their life will lose it. You need to follow me in the way that I'm teaching you. And if you find a stumbling block in there, take it up as a cross, and you'll find it a blessing. And a lot of these people, these families, kind of looked at each other and said, this is an awful hard teaching. Now, who can follow this? Some of these verses are quoted in the funeral service. Whoever loves their life in this world will lose it, and whoever hates their life will keep it for eternal life. And that's a tough passage, especially if you're at a funeral for somebody who just had a zest for life and they were a great person. You know, that's one of those verses that doesn't really fit. But I believe that what Jesus was referring to here was the ways of the world, the things that the world thinks are important. Power and money and influence and all those kind of things, having really, really fancy cars and expensive suits and all that stuff. And that is the thing that you strive after and you love, that life in this world, as opposed to food pantries and doing things, taking your own actions and doing things for the benefit of others, for those who God cares about. So that you're not focusing on the things of this life, but rather on the things of God. Now I've got a friend, a very, very close friend, who's a pastor. I always tease him because he has a Rolex watch. He drives a Mercedes. It's old, and he got a really good deal on it. And he also has a Mount Blanc pen in his jacket. As a matter of fact, we were at a course of study in seminary, and he was up in the choir loft because he's got a magnificent voice, and I was sitting down below. And the person who was preaching talked about, you know, the kind of people that have Mount Blanc pens, Mercedes-Benz, and Rolexes, and he just kind of leans forward and looks at me, and I look at me both. He has those things because he appreciates it. He's a single man, doesn't have a family, so he doesn't need to worry about the expenses and stuff associated with that. And so he appreciates these things, and he saves up for them over time and buys them. And he gets some enjoyment out of it. And I have no issue with that whatsoever, because they're not his focus. Would he give them up tomorrow if he needed to help somebody? Yes, he would. See, that's what it means to live the life of Christ. But what happened with all these followers, all these fans that would follow Jesus, in the other Gospels it says that many of them stopped following him that day. And they left him. Jesus turned around and said to his disciples, the 12, do you want to leave too? You can almost see Jesus' when people went away, when he taught them something significant. To their credit, they said, who else are we going to go to? You have the words of life. I mean, there's no second option here. See, Jesus was talking about reorienting life. Making your life centered upon the things of God. And the things of God are caring for those in need. Letting people know about God's love. And one of the best ways to do that is caring for those in need. It shows people's love. 40 years of showing people God's love. Those are the kind of things that Jesus was talking about. Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. It's one of those truisms that Jesus said that is very, very central to what it means to be a Jesus follower, not a fan. That when the things that you want, enjoy, and like, when they conflict with being a true disciple and being a true follower of Jesus Christ, get rid of those things and follow Christ. You know what the word Christian means? Little Christ. Little Christ. That's what we're called to be. To follow Jesus, emulate Jesus, and to let people know that this is what God is all about. Loving others. Spending your time and your resources to take care of others. I had a friend in school who told a story about preaching about tithing one Sunday. And he got up and talked about tithing and what it was. And for those of you who are not aware, tithing is giving 10% of your income to God's work. Historically, it's been to the church. In later years, people tend to spend things around in different places. The Bible does say that as a Christian, you should tithe. As a matter of fact, Jesus, in debating with the Pharisees who were like really, really careful to tithe everything, because they had to calculate. I mean, when they had dill leaves, they would take 1/10 of the dill leaves and tie that. They were like really sticklers for making sure they did it exactly perfectly right. And Jesus, but they weren't following in love. They forgot what the law was about. The law is about loving God and loving people. And he said, you've forgotten that piece. You should tithe, yes, Jesus. Tithing is a spiritual discipline. It's a way to help us get closer to God. To trust God. Give 10% off the top. With 5%, some people give different amounts. Is an act of trust, because it means that if I give this to God, I can trust that God is going to provide me what I need to take care of what I need to take care of. But if you do, he was talking about tithing, and he was saying the necessity of it, and went through the biblical history, and kind of got on the congregation's case kind of hard about tithing. At the end of the service, he standing at the door shaking hands, and one woman who had been in the church for 50, 60, 70 years, you know, the matriarch of the congregation, came up to him and said, I have never been so insulted in my entire life, I won't come here again. I don't know how he put it. My guess is that the way in which he phrased it was a little bit too rough, maybe a little bit less than user-friendly, if we could call it that. Because the way in which you present things makes a difference. But if he did not put it too rough, and this woman was just offended because giving 10% to God, who are you to tell me to do that? She didn't want to deny herself and take that up as a cross. Now, what does it mean to take something up as a cross? That's a phrase we use in church that a lot of people look at and say, I have no idea what the heck that means. For Jesus, the cross was how he died. And the thing from which he rose again after being buried. The cross is something that you need to do, but it's difficult for you. And you understand the necessity of it, but at the same time, it's not something you want to do. You know, Jesus explained to his disciples what was going to happen. He did in this passage first time, and he did several other times. And in the Garden of Gethsemane, he knelt down just before he was arrested and said, God, if there's any way that I don't have to do this, please. But at the same time, I'll do what you want, not what I want. Denying yourself and taking up the cross. What's the cross for you? Could be a Rolex watch. Could be having a new car every couple of years. Could be having a position of power so that I can get what I want. Could be your family because you allow them to come before God. Don't forget, God admonishes us to keep our families way up there. Your cross can be pretty much anything. There's a story told of a young man carrying his cross, and he comes upon Jesus and he says, Jesus, this cross is just too heavy for me. And Jesus said, well, open that door and you'll find some crosses in there, and you can put yours down and pick up another. And so the young man opens the door and he looks inside, and there's all kinds of crosses, little ones and big ones up to the ceiling, heavy ones and light ones. He puts his down and he looks around, and he finally looks at all the different crosses and finds one. After walking around the room for a while, picks it up and takes it out, and Jesus says to him, son, that's the cross you came in with. Sometimes our perception of the burden of our crosses is kind of outsized. Jesus tells us to look on it as a blessing. Something that can help us to orient our lives correctly, to be what we're supposed to be, to live for Jesus. So that we can be the kind of disciples that people look at and say, you know what? I kind of like the way she does stuff. She cares about other people. Even giving up her lunch for a friend who's hungry or somebody she doesn't know who's hungry. And she seems to be the way she is, and she seems kind of happy even though she doesn't have it. I want what she had. That's the most effective effective evangelism there is. So, what does all this mean? Deny your cross, come and follow Jesus. Bottom line. Be a disciple so that others can come to know the love of God. As we begin this program year in the church and in our societies, keep that in mind. In whatever situation or place you find yourself, remember that you represent Jesus Christ. People look at you and say, they go to church, gee, does that stuff they talk about in church really mean something? Or is it just a bunch of talk? The way you act will provide the answer to that question. That's scary, isn't it? It's true. You are Christ's representatives in the world. So live it and be blessed in the process. Let's pray. Lord God, we give you so much thanks that you have entrusted us with a responsibility that is so awesome, but at the same time really, really, really scary. To think that we represent Christ to the people who we meet is an intimidating idea. That people will judge Jesus Christ based upon how we act. God, we need some help. So that the way in which we act, the lives we live, the faith we show, will be consistent with your love and all that you would have us to do. So God, work in us through your Spirit. You promised us that the Holy Spirit would be with us, and that Christ would be with us through the Spirit for all eternity. And so we claim that now, and ask that that Spirit will work in and through us to make us representatives of Christ. That represent Him well. And God, as we travel through this week, with all the busyness that this time of year brings, we find ourselves running around and doing things, and then something pops into our mind about someone we care for who is struggling. It seems those kind of things never go away. There are times where things are very, very bad. Times when things are only semi-bad. God, we have concerns for those because you taught us to be concerned for those who are in need. And so we come raising the names of people, knowing that your love is sufficient for us.